Welcome to DFS Insights, where the game behind the game comes to life. I am David Geislinger, and alongside me is David Grant Jr., my cousin and co-strategist. The teams up on the block are the Minnesota Timberwolves at the Los Angeles Clippers.
This is where each of us are going to be giving you our three key players to focus on while creating each of your lineups. David and I are going to give you a quick breakdown of what we like about the three main plays, and make sure to stay tuned till the end where we give out two completely free lineups.
Nice, and then for those of you who are eager to see the end game first, we do have those two free lineups. You can find them in the lineup timestamp listed in the description below. They're tailor-made for today's single game slate, but if you're here to craft a winning strategy with depth, stick around. We're about to deep dive into all three key players each and all the insights behind tonight's matchup that can help you build not just one, but multiple victory-bound lineups. So whether you're here just for the quick lineups or you want to stick around for the full game plan, we got you covered. And with that, here we go. We got Minnesota versus the Clippers. Both teams haven't been doing so well recently. Looks like they're both 5-5 in their last 10. Timberwolves are on a 2-game losing streak, and the Clippers are on a 1-game losing streak. The Clippers are actually favored in this matchup by 6.5 points, which you kind of look at the standings, you're like, wow, 6.5 points, but key factor there, I will get down to the injuries, but Karl-Anthony Towns is out, and that has obviously been hurting the Timberwolves. Over-unders, roughly about 218 for this matchup. So going over kind of the stats here for the teams. Timberwolves, their offensive rating is about 114.2. Their defensive rating currently is the best in the league at 108.3. They're sitting at a 98.05 pace, while the Clippers' offensive rating is 119 and their defensive rating is 114.5, which is about mid-range, midfield for the NBA. And their pace is also 98.27. So both teams are evenly, pace-oriented. So you won't get the benefit of one being really the higher pace team. Their previous matchup, as you can see on the screen here, it took place was it March 3rd. Clippers did end up squeaking out the victory 89-88, so close matchup there. And as you can see here, it looks like the top fantasy scorers, Kawhi Leonard for the Clippers and Gobert, basically Gobert and Edwards were about the same, 42.2 and 42 respectively. So,
and that was quite the low-scoring game, 89-88, and
you usually see 120 plus games. Typically, it's kind of actually rare to see a game below 100. However, this might be another low-scoring game because stay tuned for the next 15 to 20 minutes while we speak about the injuries in this game. So here, try to go over them as quick as possible. That way we can get to those key players. So Clippers, Westbrook's out with that hand. He's out. This will be, I think, his 7th game. No return really. He's not coming back for a little bit now with that fractured finger or fractured hand. So 6 games, they got a new rotation already set. Kawhi Leonard, game time decision, he is questionable. Paul George, game time decision, questionable. However, looking kind of what you mentioned earlier, that was more of a rest day. They both missed last matchup, and this is basically the 3rd game in 4 days. So they took off this, their back-to-back. So older players' legs aren't what they used to be. So. And for Minnesota, it hurts, but Anthony Edwards, game time decision questionable. Karl-Anthony Towns, as we mentioned earlier, he's out. He'll be missing several weeks now. Monte Morris, Kyle Anderson, Rudy Gobert, Jalen are all questionable. Game time decision, and Jalen Kurt is out. So Yeah, a lot to dissect there. This is going to be filled. This video is going to be filled with if this then this, if this then this. So highly recommend hitting the notification bell, subscribing, so that way if any news breaks in the comments, we always post the news breaks. And if it does change our lineups, we post new lineups there, so that way we're always sticking to giving you a free lineup. We don't want to give you a free lineup where all the players are hurt. That doesn't bode well. But anything you want to add up to this matchup before we get into our key players here?
Yeah, just that it's a very important matchup. I mean, the T-Wolves have it right now 2-1, kind of as you mentioned. The strength of schedule remaining, it's Minnesota is at 13th. They got 17 games left. They're playing teams that are above 500. I mean, they got to play Denver 3 times. They got the Suns twice, the Lakers again, the Warriors as far as their toughest opponents. And then the Clippers have 19 games left. They're actually at the 11th as far as strength of schedule left, as they still have a game against Denver, the T-Wolves, the Cavs, the Pelicans, twice against the Suns, and the Kings as some of their toughest opponents. So the Western Conference is all separated just by a couple, a game basically for the most part. So, yeah.
Nice. All right. Well, let's see who's going to be your first player that you want to speak about here and help you win that 10K.
Help you win. So after doing my research, I'm going to go with Anthony Edwards. He does have the game time decision tag. I think this game's too important for him to not play, and unless it's something serious, which it doesn't appear to be, he has been getting ran into the ground, playing a lot of minutes, but he is a young player. Those young guys, LeBron's averaging 38 minutes a game, and he's 40 years old and still crushing. Anthony Edwards is like, I don't know, 24, 25, probably right around there, and this is a must. This is a big game for seeding purposes, and so they've played 3 times, and it's great because these are all recent. They played in January, they played in February, and these teams played in March. And as far as the Timberwolves go, as you mentioned, Anthony Edwards was their highest fantasy scoring producer. The game in January, he had 53 fantasy points. The game in February, he had 45, and then just this past game, he had 42, which Gobert had 42.2. So, you can argue, I mean, you can see the consistency there that Anthony Edwards has against the Clippers.
Yeah.
And again, the Clippers did have Kawhi Leonard, James Harden, and Mr. Paul George in each of those matchups. So that's something that's also big, because imagine for any reason any of them aren't playing for an extra rest day or something, that would just open it up even more for Edwards to go pretty crazy. So I'll keep it kind of brief and over, the overview part. Who do you got here as your first selection?
I'm gonna continue with Anthony Edwards. However, I would have given him even more of a higher praise if he would have landed that dunk over Anthony Davis yesterday, because I would have definitely had that photo here up on the slide.
Yeah.
Anthony Edwards. I mean, even just looking at the game log, you can clearly see why you should play him. Anthony Edwards, this matchup is a good one for him as well, not just game log trolling. I do like him in the MVP star position, mainly for the ownership. He's going to be highly, highly owned in the MVP, and especially at 15K. It's been a while since I've only seen a slate not have a person in the 16K, 17K range. So lineup construction is actually fairly easy with the highest player being 15K. The only hard part about lineup construction is all those game time decision tags. But with that, Anthony Edwards averaging last 5 games, 38.5 minutes, like you mentioned, crazy usage, 31.3, insane. Averaging 44.2, he's projected roughly about 41.1. So yeah, all great indicators that he's definitely should, barring any kind of crazy thing, and then he's obviously, if he's out, then he's out. But in the games that we've covered with Minnesota, his ownership has been anywhere from about 31% to 50% in the MVP. Star, he's been anywhere from 14 to 19%, and then Pro anywhere from 4 to 6. So, mind you, that's only taking 2 games into consideration that we've covered. And I've kept record of that. So yeah, with that, I like him. Like I said, great matchup, and by far one of the better players on the court. And with the usage and the minutes, I mean, come on.
And again, Karl Anthony Towns has played in the last 3 games that in this matchup, and now with Anthony Towns out in this one, we both know Edwards' usage is just going nothing but up. So I mean, should he play? He did only play 32 minutes in the second matchup on February 12th, and even in the 32 minutes, because again, we both know he's been getting ran into the ground. Let's just say he plays low 30s, he can still hit the upper 45, upper 40s, low 50s fantasy points wise. So yeah, great. Yeah, we both agree on that. That's a must play if he's in for sure. Who do you got here for your second pick?
Second pick is, I think I'm pretty confident, even based on some of the injuries and things like that. I'm going to go with Naz Reid. I like him. He's averaging in the last 5 games 29 minutes. His usage is about 22.8, averaging about 33 fantasy points. He is only projected 26 this matchup. I do like him in the star pro position. This also star position more along, so if like Rudy Gobert and Kyle Anderson are out again, I think Kyle Anderson would probably eat some of his minutes if he does come back from this. And also, but if Gobert's out, he might get some time too. So yeah, I really like this matchup. He has a really good matchup here against the Clippers. So with that, and his salary only being 12.5, he's that lower upper tier player. So throwing him in the star for the ownership play, but pro will probably be where he lands. I think the bulk of the most.
Yeah, that's a great pick. That dude's been a beast for the past couple of years. He's always been a fantasy per minute monster for sure. And especially with Anthony Towns out, that's already boosting him up. And then if for any reason Rudy Gobert doesn't play, I think he's a must roster at that point. I mean, and even at MVP, put it that way, unless you think that the spread's going to get a little out of control, the Vegas line is telling me it sounds like Kawhi and Paul George are playing, and then that also sounds to me like Edwards and Gobert are playing with that 6-point spread. You know what I'm saying? So either way, he's a great play regardless of who's in and who's out. I like let's see here. He got 20 fantasy points in 21 minutes the last game that they played. Zubac did only match up against if we're going with the center, because I'm trying to think of who he's going to match up with. Zubac missed 2 of the games. he missed last game, and then he also missed the first game that they played back in January. So if I look and see what Reed did, he got 27 minutes, had 18 fantasy points. But again, that was with Karl Anthony Towns in, which to me makes a big difference. And Zubac's only played 23 minutes. He had 23 fantasy points. Yeah, it'll be interesting because the T-Wolves won that second game 121 to 100. I thought it was 108, but it is 100. But yeah, great play, especially with the salary 12.5. With what his upside is, I will be having him, I'm sure, at the chalkier spot at the star. But going MVP, going pro, depending on who's in and out, I'll definitely be having a lot of exposure to Reed. So great pick, great play. I like it.
All right. Yeah, who's your second player here?
So my second player is the guy playing next to him, assuming he plays, which is going to be Rudy Gobert. I do think Gobert is going to play. I think that I'm pretty sure he just got some rest last game, because when I was looking, I mean, he was coming off 39 minutes, 36 minutes, and then before that, 40 minutes, 42 minutes. I mean, he's been putting in the minutes since the day Towns went out, basically. And so I think he just needed a little bit of rest, and that's basically what was going on. So I think Rudy Gobert is going to play. And then regardless of whether Towns was in or not, Rudy Gobert, last matchup, he was the highest fantasy point scorer for Minnesota at the 42. But then in the second matchup, or the one before that, he had 40. And the matchup before that, he had 47. So, I mean, he's averaging, 44 fantasy points, right around there within these three matchups. And the salary at the 13.5, like you said, I mean, with the highest guy on here being, 15,000 or 16,000 with Edwards, that just isn't. It's just pretty crazy. So it gives you room really to have a nice roster construction. I Gobert at MVP. I mean, you can have an MVP, star, or the pro spot. I wouldn't get silly and put him in the utility at the pro. At the star, and maybe to be a little contrarian at the MVP, depending on what shakes out. So that will be my second pick there with Mr. Gobert. What are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, no, I like Rudy Gobert. I'm kind of curious to see how he's going to play against Zubac. But however, looking back, he does have probably, like, it looks like I'm looking over here, like the 4th, 5th best matchup. They did hold Brook Lopez to about 21 fantasy points, but gave up 37 to Vucevic, 70 to Sengun. Brook Lopez held him again. Gobert, they gave up 42. So yeah, Davis 50, 61, 51 to Jaren Jackson. So yeah, the Clippers do give up quite a bit of points here to Big. So I do like him. And even paying, from Reed to Gobert, that extra 1,000 is potentially worth it too, or even both. Playing both of them in your lineup, that could be set you apart there, utilizing both those players, because some people might get nervous seeing that center and thinking they're playing a high salary backup basically with Reed. So
and just to kind of so Gobert had 3 blocks last game, 4 blocks in the second matchup in February, and it looks like 4 blocks again in the first matchup. I mean, he's been a blocking machine against the Clippers.
Nice.
And then, as far as his rebounds, I mean, man, 16 rebounds, 11 rebounds, and 18 rebounds. I mean, he seems to have the Clippers number on the inside. So now again, 2 of those games were without Zubac. Zubat did only play, like I mentioned. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting because it'll be interesting. But yeah.
All right, who's your interesting third pick?
Yeah. So my third pick here, and again, this isn't in any particular order, but I'm gonna go with Kawhi Leonard. Assuming Anthony Edwards doesn't play, if he didn't, really you can fit both of these guys, but Kawhi Leonard is to me the best play probably on the slate. He's coming off a day of rest. Anytime, especially him and PG at the same time, Paul George coming off a day of rest, he'll be ready to go. They know this is a big game. In the last matchup that they just had, he had 46 fantasy points. He had one off game in February where he had 32, but in the first matchup in January, he had 47. He's getting the minutes, 38 minutes, 32 and 37. It's time for, he's the guy that really needs to step up now that Westbrook is out, and he is supposed to be the face of this team. So he's the one person I have faith that will get the minutes and get the fantasy points, because they are a pretty deep team. And this is a big game, man. This is a big game for them. And I'm going to look to the leader. I'm going to go with Kawhi, especially at the lower, I say lower price, because you and me are used to seeing 17,000, 17.5 on these slates. To see players under that with the upside that he has. Kawhi Leonard, man, can't go wrong there. What are your thoughts on that? And then who do you got here to finish us off with your final pick?
Yeah, I like Kawhi Leonard. I want to say he's going against the Minnesota's actually pretty decent, ranked about 11th against his position, but at the same time he did just drop 46.5 on him. About a week and a half, a little over a week ago. So he kind of went over it that, and basically since the latter part of February 25th, he's basically averaging over 45 fantasy points. With the exception of this, obviously he didn't play against Milwaukee, and Chicago he had 36.8. So yeah, but before that, 8 games of basically above 45. So yeah, can't go wrong there. Definitely will have him MVP star for sure, and even mixing things up and go all the way down to pro. Just for the ownership play there. But I have a feeling he's going to be probably at least top 3 players fantasy point wise, raw fantasy point wise. In this matchup, I just think, especially barring any kind of setbacks, if he did get that extra day of rest, if it was an actual rest day and not an injury, whatever, coming off a well rested kind of thing, I think he's got with fresh legs, Kawhi Leonard is pretty dangerous. So.
And imagine this. So right now the Timberwolves are 44-21. The Clippers are 41-22. They can pick up a full game on Minnesota. Minnesota right now is in 3rd. The Clippers in 4th. And then I wasn't fully sure on this whole play-in tournament rules, but obviously that's why they draw the line here. Like, you have to be in the top 6 to be guaranteed into the playoffs. And that going down, that everyone there is separated by basically a game. New Orleans at 39, the Suns at 38, the Kings at 36, Dallas at 37, the Lakers at 36, and the Warriors at 34 at number 10. So this game's huge on top of the tiebreaker, so that way they're at least tied at 2-2. Yeah. Kawhi Leonard has to show up.
Yeah.
So right on, man. Who do you got here for your final pick?
Third player, last but not least, going back to the oldie but goodie here, Ivic Zubac. There, I have a feeling he's going to have a pretty good game. He's been doing fairly well since his time back. Still still want to see him in those 30 minutes, but he's usually only about mid 20s. But his fantasy per minute is kind of ridiculous. So last 5 games here, he's only averaging 21.7 minutes. His usage is 15.7, averaging about 21.4, projected about 25.6. I do like him in the Pro Flex for this, going up to Star. Unfortunately, I don't see too much in there just because of the positions or the players that are above him. I'll be a little bit more intrigued to put him there. However, he does have star potential, so don't hold that back. You definitely be the ownership play there, and which could be a good thing because looking back, Minnesota just gave up 91.5 raw fantasy points to Davis. They gave up 70.1 to Jared Allen, 59 to Sabonis, and 60.1 to Jaren Jackson. So if that's any indication, and that's all within basically the last week and a half. With any indication there, I think there's a potential for him to be, I guarantee he can probably get 60 plus fantasy points if he played the full 35 starter minutes basically. So that's why I'm picking him. I think he has a great matchup, and I would like it obviously even more, maybe even throw him in that star position if, it's confirmed that Rudy Gobert is out.
Yeah, he definitely could be a slate breaker, because if Karl Anthony Towns is out, that's already huge, and then if let's just say Gobert plays, even with Towns now being out, that could lead him to suddenly getting more minutes with the new matchup. You know what I'm saying? So it could be deceiving that his minutes, have been low typically when they've played, even going into last season. And so, because even going into last season, 17 minutes, 21 minutes, 28 minutes. And it, like you mentioned, if he breaks that 30-minute threshold and at 11K, we both know what Zubac can do. So he definitely could break the slate, and definitely something to be watching with the news, especially if Rudy Gobert's out. So right on. I like it.
All right. Well, with that, now you understand our key players. So now what you guys been waiting for, and if you did jump ahead, here are those free lineups for you coming your way. Please, as we wrap up today's discussion, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Your support fuels our passion and helps bring our insight your way. And here's also a bonus for our community. Head over to our shorts section. Wow, say that a few times fast. For 2 free prize pick plays that are related to today's matchup. I go and scroll through and give you, the highest potential chance to, hit that over or under in today's matchup. It's not always over the optimal percentage, but it's the best for this matchup. It is our way to say thank you and giving you, even more tools, in your DFS arsenal. And with that, please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Love to get your guys' feedback. Please, like I said, definitely say it one more time, notification bell. We do post breaking news, injury reports, and adjustments to lineups, barring there is any, changes. So with that, send you over to David and let him send us off here.
Yep, very important. We're getting down here to the last 17 games of the season or so. Very important to stay up on this injury news and who's tanking, who's not, who's resting, all that type of stuff. Make sure you're staying on top of that. Can't wait we'll be covering the Kings-Lakers game for Wednesday, so make sure that you guys look out for that video as well. And other than that, look forward to seeing you guys at the top. Make that money. I wish all of you guys out there nothing but good luck. Like, subscribe, and see you on the next one.